Welcome to The Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee, and today I have the privilege of speaking with the founder and CEO of Raisin in the Sun. She is a visionary, creative, track and field Olympian whose career spans nearly a decade, specializing in community arts initiatives and in cross-disciplinary collaborative work. Please welcome Raasin McIntosh. Welcome to the podcast.
Rob, thank you for having me, and howdy,
Howdy.
They say from Texas. Nah, that's not how I do that.
I do that a lot here, though. I do that all the time here, though. People I can see it now. People are going to be like, I knew he was leaving. He always says howdy. I find it to be disarming, though. So thank you. And you were very surprised. I want to say that, like, on air, what have you, in this whole process of starting this spinoff series, Truth in This Art Beyond. You've been very helpful in kind of like giving me direction and giving me like recommendations and in part, giving me funding or what have you to kind of help do some of this stuff. So I really appreciate it. And I think this is one of the really good introductory steps to kind of move and spread this kind of conversation, more broadly than the Mid-Atlantic region, but kind of hitting these other markets and telling these stories. So thank you so much.
Oh, no, absolutely. I think it was a no-brainer for me. Once I met you and I kind of learned a little bit about the work you were doing, I was like, oh, yeah, he's got to get down to Austin. So really, really happy that you were able to do that. Absolutely.
So with all of the niceties out of the way, it's time to get into some weird questions. No. So I want to talk about, I want to start off with some of those like vital stats or what have you. I gave the copy and paste kind of like background, but, could you share like those integral components of who you are in the arts and culture space, and tell me about your career path? Because it's not often, I've never spoken to an Olympian. So let's get that in there as well. So let's talk about it a little bit.
It is different. It's a journey. Man, I've been on a journey, like a crazy journey. But so I want to start off by saying originally I'm from Houston, Texas. Travis Scott, Lil Kiki, Beyonce, Paul Wall, all the dope people. You know what I mean?
All right there. Astros. What are we doing?
Astros. Houston Rockets. But okay. Anywho. West Fair High School, Southwest, Southeast. Yeah. Anywho,
this is great.
Definitely born and raised there. Before we get into the path into Austin, which was a little bit over half my life in Austin, in and out. But the first half was definitely rooted in Houston, and a little community and neighborhood southeast off 610 near the old Astrodome. Used to be Astroworld. Yeah. Now it's the Reliance Center. It's a neighborhood called Sunnyside. Yeah. Near Cloverland, and right before you start getting into the wards that line down the east side of Houston. Flip. Goes all the way to Fifth Ward, which my mom was, raised in Sunnyside, and my dad literally on the east side, other half, and on the north side, Fifth Ward. And he went to Wheatley High School. My mom went to Worthy High School, and my dad and her met and had me and my sisters, and so rooted in Houston, and my dad was pretty much a powerful, and still is, a creative. He's an artist. He could build anything. He can build a house. He can build a stage. He built for the community. He builds and carves out of wood. He's a designer. He can paint. I mean, he's just one of those, just creative beings. And first kind of introduced me to just the world of arts and culture, and it's what it could really mean to somebody's life, and the power of its opportunity and expression. And so that's kind of like my background. And then, of course, early on, he said, hey, I don't care what you do. You don't have to paint. Because I told him, I don't like painting. I don't want to do that. He's like, well, you got to get into some kind of art. I don't know what it could be. Music, get your behind, start singing. You need to do something because you got some creativity and you just don't know yet, And so I got into the jazz band. So I started with tenor sax early on, middle school. And until I got to high school, Westbury High School, when I began to develop not the C for creative, but that other C, which means competitive.
Yeah.
And so I got in, I started carrying this big old tenor sax, it's bigger than me. People start pushing me around. Hey, what you doing with this tenor sax? Like it's bigger than you. Like, what are you here for? And I started getting in the gym, playing basketball. And then when somebody spotted me playing basketball, they were like, hey, you need to get into, the program, the athletic programs. And so I got in and was a speedy on the court, doing really well and very competitive. And then I ended up in track. And so that's how I got into track and just, ran like, what's the guy that ran the Forrest Gump guy? That was me.
Run, raise, and run.
Run, raise, and run. So I ran out of, Houston. I really did. I played till it was full scholarship.
Yeah.
Provided me a powerful opportunities to travel the world. Yeah. A powerful education at UT, University of Texas, in which I landed in Austin. And where I really began after that chapter, after the World Championships and the Olympics and all of the different competitive travel and things, I went to the next chapter, which was into the arts and the community. Really, this is a story of philanthropy.
Yeah.
I think art and community and creative placemaking is a tool, really, but this is about how can I give back to people and humanity and how to make the mark and then build that legacy and leave that legacy. So that's kind of like how I got to Austin. So if that's enough of a background, I mean, we can go into detail.
No, I got more Austin questions later, what have you, that I'll hit you with. So you touched on creative placemaking. So let's talk about your current work or what have you, and you're going to love the way this next part of the question works. And, could you share any hurdles, literal or otherwise, to your work?
You're smart. Oh my gosh. Oh, so yeah, I love. So creative placemaking. So creative placemaking to me is really the creative that wants to look at space as a canvas, right? It is a platform to really look at eyesores, underutilized spaces and lots and warehouses and, anything that has the ability to create or just to hold people in, right? Yeah. To me, that is the epitome of really that type of tool, is to say, hey, there's a vacant lot, and what could we do? We could do a skateboard park, we can do a soccer field, a temporary something to utilize these spaces while they sit vacant to solve problems, to be solution-based, to inspire, to restore, to bring folks together, to help somebody realize their potential, right? To put an artist and put an artist to work or give them economic viability, visibility, right? How could we look at these? It could be a lot. I mean, an alley in the middle of downtown that is just trashed and just sitting there. It's about seeing that space in a whole new light. Yeah. Right. And so when you talk a little bit about hurdles to this type of work, first of all, people don't know what it is.
Right.
That's the biggest hurdle to me, is talking all the time, trying to explain. See, I'd rather be out there working and doing stuff and people giving us the funds to do that. Yeah. But I'm spending half my time trying to build stories, content to show people, hey, this is what it is, believe in it, because it's incredibly transformative. And it's that answer to a lot of this siloed, new age community, if you will, like with new people moving in and old people there, and then they just looking at each other. They looking. Nobody's getting it. Nobody wants to sit at the table. Nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody's just, nagging at each other and hating. And, so I think for me, it's, that would be the first hurdle, to really explain to people what it is that we do. And then I would say to piggyback on that is getting what comes after that is really to get the funding and the city on board in terms of the policies to kind of make the work that we're doing a little bit easier, right? Yeah. Because in one instance, it almost looks like I'm a developer. If you think about that, because it's like I'm literally having to get temporary use permits, and like I'm having to, I might have to, reserve a lift or equipment or just things that a lot of times contractors and developers they're in this field. I might have to get a TERP permit, temporary use right away. So, but what the industry, the role and the line of work that I'm doing is not that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I would say that is a second big hurdle, but I think the impact that we've had in Austin to date, it's been a lot easier. And so we have established those relationships with the city, and we've done amazing work, and people are like, oh, wow, this is what they do. Like, so let's try to get in and try to make these policies and these different rules and stuff easier for an organization like this to be able to do the work that they're doing.
And I think, because as I'm listening to it, I think about what I'm doing from my space, right? And not my space, because that's defunct, I think. But
that's not bad though. My space was actually interesting one day.
But I think about, people have this kind of, and this is a word I just learned, so it's great. This kind of Luddite sort of like approach where you don't have vision, you don't believe in technology, you don't believe in this new approach to maybe doing things. So to your point of, having to explain over and over, and that's a nice chunk of your time. Like in a week, I start looking at the calendar. I start off the week, right? And I'm like, all right, because I have the day job too, you know what I mean? And it's like, all right, how many meetings are podcasts? I start coloring them in a different way. Like, what's a podcast? What's a conversation? And I'm going to try to get to a space where, and it feels inorganic, but try to get to a space where if it's not a podcast, it's got to be a 15-minute conversation, because you're not getting it through. And I find that I'm continually having conversations with folks about, this is what a podcast is. This is why this is beneficial to this thing. This is what it's about. Whereas simply it could be, hey, listen to a couple of episodes, you'll get a temperature on what the aim is. And it says it all over the place. And then you have to get past this other hurdle of, well, we would fund an arts thing, but this isn't art. Like, okay, or podcasts aren't art or what have you. And then I can retort with, have you listened to like audio dramas? That's a play, just via audio, And so if that could be on stage, and then maybe it's not on stage, maybe it could be done as film, or maybe it can be done as audio. So each one of those is the same thing, but just done in a different way. So why isn't this documentarian sort of thing, the storytelling thing, considered art? So it's a lack of vision sometimes.
Listen, you speaking my language right now. I need to, first of all, understand, why can't people see that what you do and what I do is an art? It's a creative thing. It's a
curatorial thing.
It's curatorial. It's freaking, like, I think people have to understand that their idea of what art is not, it's just, my dad used to tell me art is in everything and it is in everywhere. It's everywhere. Like, I'm not a painter.
Yeah.
I probably could paint if I practice and that's what I wanted to do and focus my time on.
Yeah.
But I'm creating something else.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's in a true sense too, where I think you're not doing a grifter thing. You're not doing and people don't get it, I think, a lot of times. And in talking with folks here who are nonprofits, who are in like these creative supporting sort of facilitator sort of spaces, the anti-gatekeepers, if you will,
right?
They'll just say like, and I reference my experience with you and some of the other fine folks in Austin. I was like, sight unseen, that was a supportive situation there from somebody they've never met, has no ties to this city, but has a desire to cover things there. Whereas here, in Baltimore, at times it's like, you really have to kind of break your neck to get and ignored email, not even a follow up, but it ignored the email. And it's like we have to kind of shift from it because I've been reading, because on the trip down to Austin, I was listening to the Austin Kleon books, because that's part of my process. I'll listen to like books about culture and creativity and things of that sort. And one that I dove into was the Rogue Artist Handbook, and I had something that hit me that was just like basically kind of a pushback. And the guy was talking about like these creative benchmarks. The author was talking about these creative benchmarks, and he was like, don't fall for them. He's like, never fall for them. And, he said sometimes people have this idea of what's art and what's outside of art. And, that outside of art is kind of most art. And that right there feels like it's a fallacy. It's like, how is most art outside of art?
That is crazy to me.
And it's like you haven't had a gatekeeper get you over as the next big thing yet, hence your outsider art. And I was like, okay, thank you for explaining that, because I was struggling with it for a bit,
Wow.
Yeah, I'll send you the link to it. You can check it out or what have you. It's worth a listen. So. Wow. This question right here, because, this directly comes out of Steal Like an Artist. So I'm just like, there is a quote that, art is life, life is art. I never separate them. What are your thoughts on this quote? And have you had experiences where, art or being around artists taught you life lessons?
Absolutely. Like, I think that quote is amazing. I think it speaks to what we were just talking about in terms of, really, to me, art is everywhere. Not only is it life, right? Yeah. It's in everything. I think it's just about opening up your mind and receiving that. And then also really going down that journey, that creative journey, right? It's just like, and the journey is what kind of empowers and makes you powerful as you're going down the journey to be able to do these things and the experiences that you have. And in talking about experiences, when you're looking at the amount of people that we are running into, that we're working with, we're collaborating with, we're serving, it becomes all about, how to deal with people, right? And in that you see different cases, right? And different experiences when you're understanding this thing called life, right? And so, for example, I'll give you one, of course, not gonna say any names, but you work with somebody that is in a leadership position here in Austin, has a powerful following, has developed either a company, organization, or has an incredible business, but might be struggling from trauma on the inside, right? And when the trauma surfaces, people just kind of, because they're at the level of that giver and that leader level, you're powerful regardless, right? But not always checking what's coming out, what you're giving out to everybody. So a lot of times what I'm trying to say is hurt people.
Yes.
Right. And in this position that I'm in, having to understand and stand back and identify that and not be reactive, right? And to understand how to leave a tidbit to be able to heal some of that trauma through the work that we're doing and the collaboration and the experiences that they have, right? And I don't know if that's kind of hitting it, but I think it might not solve or heal the entire trauma, but what it does is it plants a seed. And so the next experience that they expect to have reactions or whatever to feed that, I think it's still that seed that grows. You know what I mean? And I think that that's kind of like when you're dealing with art and you're saying art is life, you have to be ready to deal with people. And not only that, you have to be consciousness enough to understand a lot of the trauma and things that are going along within the creative industry, particularly arts and culture and community, understanding that a lot, especially in a city like Austin, that It's a very expensive city to live. I don't want to get into, we can get into it later. There's huge amounts of gentrification and displacement happening. And a lot of who's suffering besides BIPOC, people of color, are creatives.
Yes.
Right. That are just up and coming, and understand that there is a truly ideology on some people that, that they're starving. Right. And so understanding that is a lot of what you're dealing with. You're constantly working on our end to present these opportunities and to give a little, a little push up there so they can see the game.
Yeah.
Right. And
Absolutely.
they just want to be able to see the game. That's it. And just a little opportunity to be able to thrive.
Yeah, because you touched on it, and I could put it this way. From the minimal time I was there, I was like, $7 lattes is starting to add up. It's like, this is a bit wild, and being able to have conversations. I'm not the hey, how's it going, guys? But I had a few instances down there, and I'm just kind of hanging out and taking in the city, and I feel like I got a very I got an introduction, but also I got a kind of a one-sided introduction. So I know it's going to be a part 2, in it.
And you got to come back.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Come back. Yeah,
and I think with it, you see like the numbers, and I do the comparison thing or what have you. And any place that I go, it's like, how much do I like it? And then how is it compared to where I'm from? How is it compared to Baltimore in terms of the economics and so on? And then when you see it and you start looking for, all right, where's the graffiti? Where's the murals? Where are the different things that kind of add the seasoning to a spot? And I can see the Indeed building prominently. You know what I mean? But I'm pensive. I kept an eye on that. I was like, all right, this is what's happening here. And it's a thing. It's a thing worth considering. And you're looking for, all right, where's the neighborhoods? Where are the people doing the wild things? Where is the the kind of like individual spot or what have you? Where can I get some art supplies if I want it, or pen and a pad or something? Yeah.
We're in trouble.
Yeah.
It's disappearing.
Yes. And the thing that struck me rather is I think a little bit of that is happening here in a very slow way, but I think it's a cultural rebrand. And, one of the things when I first started the interviews, I was like, so Juneteenth. And I was talking about that a little bit. I was like, that's a Texas thing, right? And I was like, we literally had this rebrand. We had freedom rebranded in front of us. And you could ask a few people. I think I told like Pam this, just like, okay, that's hilarious. But it's a thing. It's like,
it's a thing here.
It's like, this is something that was already there. It was already celebrated and acknowledged in certain pockets. And then it's like, let's shift it. We're going to do it better for you. We started it. Now it's our time to take it over. And I think that happens when it comes to arts and culture because I saw this video yesterday and dude was just talking about, it's this like real estate guy. And he was talking about some of the plans for, 2025, 2027 of things moving in and business moving in and headquarters being built out from heavy.
I saw that video. The same one. Like talking about Google.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is it going to look like? And I think, it's a little self-serving, I'm going to say, but I think being able to document where a place is at a given point is important. There is something important about that, being able to say, all right, this is what people were living and experiencing at this time before this was rebranded as, let's keep it weird. That's all I knew about Austin before coming down there, Yeah. Lot to process there.
It's a lot to get chills because I'm working to help not only just preserve, and what you talked to Pam from Six Square, that's what their mission is to preserve the African American Culture District. I'm really here. It's for us, it's, it's everything mural arts, it's creative placemaking, it's restoration, its environment for the community, like right for the things that are weird. You know what I mean? Like, and for like, and we want to give the opportunity for these newcomers in the big companies to give, right, and be a part of that. Yeah. But we're not in the business of creating ads.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, that's a huge thing. Like, if you want to have your little acknowledgement, because everyone wants to, and I've been in more of these things where we want to thank our sponsors and acknowledge the blah blah blah, and it's like, cool, acknowledge them, but this is not an advertisement for them
by far.
If you want to do something that is socially responsible, what have you, the word that I've had a lot of trouble with recently in talking to folks in that kind of lane, impact. What's the impact of your work? It's hard to have impact when you're working with people. You know what I mean? It's like, you want to serve people, you want to understand why you're doing a certain thing, but it's still human behavior. And it's like, you might need 6 months, you might need a year, you might need 2 to get people invested and buy in. But ultimately, it leads, let's say if you have, a mural or something that goes up in an area that has been blighted, has been ignored, that is going to improve the quality of life. And I'm sure that there's data that backs it up, that improves the quality of life of seeing something that's beautiful versus something that's like, bad.
You said something powerful just now. Man, you are good. See, I'd like to say, and this is just, it's not off the record, but I want people to understand when I say this. The work that we do, okay, so you see beautiful projects that we've manifested and we've curated, over 20 plus artists in one project and creatives, and we're doing all these great things. But what people don't understand is, one, the artists come on the end of that. If it's a 8, 9 month, a year project, they may come the last 2 months, right, through the whole entire process of selection and panels and community meetings or whatever. That's one. Right. The other thing is it takes an enormous amount of capacity within the organization to spend time doing this work. And the third thing is the meat of this, the impact, what you're saying, is the journey from start to finish. That's where people have to come together. That's when the conversations are being had. That's when the community engagement does its thing. Like, there's this process, when you do a painting, right? There's this, phases, right? And so there's this certain foundation that you have to have. I mean, I watch Bob Ross. I'm watching. He builds that foundation. Yeah. So the little things, the details on the top can shine.
Yeah, the happy little trees.
Come on. Like, and so these projects, we just came off of a huge one, Bomb Road. I mean, that's another award winning one. Nobody cared a year and a half ago when I was talking about it. Hey, you want to come on and help us out? It was an eyesore, retaining wall, a whole corridor. You had to get the funding and all this. And now it's a destination now, but a destination for a purpose, right? Yeah. This is a message to neighborhood wins. This is a message about stories of community people that have been here 60 plus years and they have fought for environmental justices that have been happening from the 1928 plan that pushed all the Black and brown people from the west side of Austin to the east, and then through all the tanks and the dirt and the trash and everything contaminated on that side as they segregated. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
So this is intentional curatorial work here that has a very powerful middle and beginning that sets up the end, and that looks beautiful. Like, and it could transform a eyesore, right? Whether it's on the wall, whether it's in the parking lot, on the ground, in the street, whether it's just a space that you want to throw paint on or just throw couches and some turf and make it welcoming, but the why behind what we're doing and that journey that leads up into what everybody sees.
Yeah. And the why is always important. Like, working, like, my day job is I'm a data analyst in my day job, and being able to throw out numbers and throw out, impact statements, throw out, like, this is how this connects. So when I was applying for, like, funding and grants and so on, I threw out there this, and I got some feedback from someone I know, and that raises a fair amount of funds for a museum. And I was like, so what's a good impact statement? And she told me, she was like, you should do some research on what the industry you're covering is. So I put that together. Impact statement was, what my work does is expose people to this community of arts and culture that's bringing in this amount of money.
Wow.
I can attach it to this. And it's like, well, I don't know. It's like, that's the people I'm talking to. Those are the people I'm talking to. Mm-hmm. And it's growing at a very accelerated rate because there's so many stories. Whereas, initially, it's only going to, you'll be lucky to find 20 people. You won't be able to find anybody that's interesting, has an interesting story. And it's like, no, we're going to have some interesting stories. There's going to be some good conversations here, some great conversations.
Right.
And, people deserve to have their communities look good, to have their stories being told that they matter. And I think that that's missed a lot of times because, people don't see it. Like, you can have your placement on a mural or something. That's fine. I've seen some that are here that I remember, I think it was BT connected with one of the local artists here, and they did this mural maybe promoting the revival of, I think it was either revival or it was the 20th anniversary or 30th anniversary of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? And they were able to have their signage on there, almost like a tag. For like an Instagram tag almost, but
they like at the bottom or something like that.
That's fine. Or even have the little plaque there that this was brought together with support from blah blah blah.
Right.
That's fine, but don't turn it into this is your thing because you didn't paint this. You helped fund it. You helped facilitate it. That's kind of the extent of it.
Right.
So I want to ask this before because we can get into the weeds about all of these things. We're going to say Wayne lift on things, so that's great. So I got two questions that I want to hit you with, and then I got some Austin questions because I wanted to go full circle with it. So there are times that we have less time to complete a project, so we put things off until the last minute sometimes, and then we rush to complete them. I know that I've done it. I know several people that are like, "Oh shit, I got a deadline," and we find that that there's fun sometimes that you can procrastinate. Like you have those periods like, all right, I need to re-jog that creative energy. I need to step away from this work briefly and do something that's kind of a distraction, but that's still creative to kind of get back and get that energy and that kind of like, I guess, untangle the brain, if you will. Do you do anything that's like that? Are you prone to procrastination? Do you have it? Because you're always busy, from what I understand, and you're the main person. Like your name rings in the streets, as it were.
Yeah, that's a great question. Because in the last year, it has exponentially like gotten insane. Like for me, like time wise, and my partner is always get it on your calendar and this and that, and because things are beginning to slip a little. I hate I'm admitting this right now because I got this, I got all of it, but it's slipping a little bit, and so I'm having to really have a strong team behind me, start to delegate a lot more, especially, and we can talk about this later, but when I took director at the downtown position to kind of do this creative placemaking stuff, it really started to intensify in terms of the time. But a little before that, about a year ago, and dating back at least 5 to 7 years, I was an avid like biker. And then let me just pause for a second and say, this is not Lance Armstrong like road biking. I tried dirt, I guess you could say like not dirt biking, but yeah, I guess mountain biking. That's not my thing. I'm talking about urban, city, fixie, no brakes, like riding, with a sports bra on and a cap and a backpack with a bunch of stuff in there you probably don't need.
Just getting it.
Just going, just riding around, really immersing myself into community and different experiences in different cities, right? And especially here in Austin. And so that was really a lot of where I got a lot of my like edgy inspiration. Like that community, biker community is dope, man. And you can just find anybody from the president all the way to, the engineer to the church folks, to to the podcast. I mean, anybody can get out there and get on a bike and ride. And so I would oftentimes take off and just plan a trip, maybe to New York, or maybe, I haven't been to Baltimore, but in an area that I could research that has some bike lanes in the urban setting. Yeah. And plan a weekend, and go out there and pack my bike. I have a bike case. Yeah. Put it back together. Yeah, that's me, and then I want to say one more thing besides the biking. Sure. And that is at heart, if you really want to look at a skill that I have, you can't see my hands, but I'm a builder. Yeah. That's what I could build a house if I put some time in it, right? This idea of restoration and raising the son really came from watching HGTV and building little projects, because I just really wanted to go in and restore stuff. But when I'm in line doing that work, it could be, refurbishing or redoing furniture, old furniture, whatever it is, I'm in a place of peace there. It's very much very zen for me, right? And so what I needed oftentimes to take a break from is the next level of creativity that I'm doing, which is a lot of times it's a leader level advocate. I'm in the community, I'm curating stuff, I'm producing, I'm doing all these things. That is also has a zen component because it's creating, but it's not as intense. So then when I feel like I'm either biking or building something, I feel like the pressure is released for me to be able to either take in inspiration or manifest the inspiration that I take in.
That's legit. Yeah, that's absolutely legit. I sometimes I just have to take breaks from it because I feel like just being on all the time. And that's not a thing that I'm used to. And, I'm 6'4". I'm a 300-pound black dude or what have you. So I'm noticeable. It's like, oh yeah, that's Rob Lee, right? That's podcast guy right there. And I'm like, yo, if I can just slide in here and get this burger without anybody noticing me. and I mean, it's cool or what have you. And I'm not saying, oh, woe is me, but also it's kind of one of those things where you don't want to be unkind, and I notice when I'm or even short with somebody, and I notice when I need to kind of have that departure. It's like I need a change of scenery. That's my version of procrastination. Even if it's I need to just go down to DC. I need to just go just in a different setup. It helps. It helps even it helps even clear out some of all right, I want to do different questions. And I bring that notepad with me, and I'm like, all right, because when I was thinking of the questions for you that I was going to ask you, I was like, all right, I think I was on the flight actually, and I was writing questions, and that helped out a lot because it's a change of at least where my mind is at. If I was in front of my desk and I'm like, all right, come up with some questions, it's not going to happen. It's in that way, or I'm going to have to flush them out.
Yeah, to add to that point, I think the flights have been extremely a moment of they provide clarity to me, and really early in the mornings between 4 and 7 a.m. is if you didn't get the clarity or the creative inspiration the previous day or even week, sleep on it a little bit.
It hits you. It'll hit you. Yeah, it'll hit you in definitely in those times. And that is a question that I throw out there on occasion to people who, they really are super reliant on imagination. I'm like, when does it hit you? Because, there are times where I'll have something and I'm like, all right, I wake up but, and grab the pen and just write it down.
Yeah.
So real quick, this one I want to have a quick one, and I got some Austin questions for you. Could you share a recent project or program that you've curated, that you've worked through, and just kind of give us that rundown, just to kind of further flesh out just what it is within the work that you're doing?
Woo.
I know. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to the most recent one.
I like you pulled the pen out, by the way. That's great.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the most recent one. So we just did a citywide ribbon cutting unveiling for the Baum Road Murals project, right? And so in a nutshell, we hired over 20 plus creatives, including coordinator, videographer, photographer, artists, visual. We had we had an on-site manager there. We had a digital content writer. We had over 15 plus art installations, along a 900 plus square feet long. I'm talking 5 blocks corridor. Like, you can literally turn off airport to Baum Road and just drive, and it's endless art. I mean, you're just taking it in. Nice. And each one of these pieces are powerful. They speak to the community, speak of the community in mind, and the environmental injustices that they have encountered, and then future, and present, right? And then there are community installations. We've had 3 to 4 community installations where we got people out to be able to express themselves through different prompts and different things. And I wanted to kind of paint that picture and it's not on our website yet because that's how overcapacitated we are. But we're working on that now. But if you go on to our Instagram, you can be able to see a little bit of on the highlights of that project. But I love this project because a year and a half ago when we took it on from the city, and this was we were commissioned by the city's neighborhood partnering program in partnership with Gavali Neighborhood Association. This project has so many different components, right? We ended up taking this project on because of the opportunity. It was a passion project, and the opportunity to really impact a neighborhood through the arts and through the work that we're doing. And so we ended up on a journey to kind of say, hey, city, we'll commission this, and we want full autonomy. We'll pass y'all over the design so y'all can, check, but we don't want you in any of the creative processes, what we're doing. We're going to create an engagement strategy for you in terms of multiple ways that the communities can come in on virtual meetings and get involved and have a seat at the table and what they wanted to see. We're going to make sure that these artists are selected through a curated panel of selectors, right? Of people that represent the community, the neighborhood, the arts, local businesses around there, and people that are going to partake and see these murals every day. We're going to make sure that the artists understand their role and what they need to do in terms of getting inspired through face-to-face conversations with these people, right? And this is going to be a journey, right? And so after a year and a little bit of change, we ended up unveiling that mural, and it's literally award-winning because people that were, if they didn't pass, and they were on people that were actually on the wall today was able to attend that, and the families that were able to celebrate their loved one, right? And the feedback and the excitement behind it was literally blows me away. Like with the work that sometimes the work that you're doing, literally like, okay, this is what we're doing. Yes, Lord, this is God's work. And there's tears coming down. And it's like, but through that year, it's like, I mean, we had one artist that was like giving us some issues. And I'm like, look, let me remind you of why we're doing this. So it's just, it's kind of like Moses in the Red Sea and all this. Is kind of like, hey, didn't we just get saved yesterday? Y'all forgot? Like, let's keep our mind focused here and get to the mark. Get to the mark. And so that is I mean, and when I say it's proud, I'm proud because that's a week ago. I'm still in that moment to where, I believe, that this work, it works. Yeah. It works. So
it's that reminder, and it's that that proof that now that as you put it, this work works.
This work works.
So I want to hit you with these Austin questions real quick, and so What was your first memory of Austin? Because you touched on UT and all of that. What was your first memory that pops up? Like, was it like, oh snap, I'm late for class? What was that first memory for you in Austin?
That's another good one. My first memory of Austin. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Texas relays. Do you know anything about Texas relays?
I don't know anything about Texas relays. I would imagine it's running involved. Something I don't do.
Huge relay event with all high school, the top high school, I mean, really everybody, but the top high school track and field athletes, along with the professionals and the collegians that come all into Austin. And so, but take a second here. Okay. You and I both know, if you're any type of track fan, you know that African American people historically have dominated that area between the 100 meters on up, right? You know, especially sprints and the hurdles and all this. And so if you just take a second now, and I'm telling you that this is a huge event. Don't you know they take over Austin when they come here?
Oh, okay.
Everybody take, I mean, as a matter of fact, we were just in my day job, we were just talking about, we were having diversity, equity, inclusion training. Yeah. Right. And so we were talking about how there's issues downtown with folks closing their bars down early because when the Texas relays get here, I mean, they flood 6th Street and they flood downtown, they flood the east side in celebration of, you know, this athletic event. And a lot of times people's kids getting down there, running fast and getting seen, and it's celebratory. Yeah. And that is my first experience of Austin, was that influx of culture that came in and just kind of like, I'm like, wow, this is like amazing, right? I don't know. It's kind of like, have you been to Penn Relays?
No, I've not been to any relays.
In Philadelphia? You need to, man.
I mean, all I do is do podcast stuff. I'm just here in front of a mic. I'm actually chained to the seat, if you must know. It's like, get to work, man. It was like, put the mic on, fool.
But as a podcaster, I would encourage, if you have time, a weekend or two, or maybe we can go together and go to an athletic competition. And because it's interesting to see a chapter for me being turned from athletics to art and culture, right? Because most of the time, you know, you see people doing coaching and they're doing your trainer or whatever it is. Yeah. But you have some people, I even think, I can't remember his name right now. He was actually a track runner at UT, and he's a famous actor now. Like, he's a Black guy. He did that Bird movie. I can't remember, but yeah, he's been in some pretty good movies, and it's interesting to me because he's a creative. He's a creative to me, and so so that is my first fondest memory of. And this was in high school when I went to Texas Relay, so it has been a staple, you know, so to speak. Being from Texas, you know, Austin was always iconic. Yeah.
No, that's dope. Actually, I love hearing that, and I like consuming concentrated culture. I don't like it watered down. So I'm really proud of myself and how I described that. By the way, so I've been asking this one. This is the last Austin question before we get to these rapid fire ones, and this is going to be a challenge because there's things there. If someone is visiting Austin for, let's say, a weekend. Okay. What is one thing that you're like, you absolutely positively have to check this place out, have food at this place? What is an attraction that you would say that's a must try, at least one?
Oh, you don't do this to me.
Sorry. I mean, this is the beginning of me ruining all the goodwill that I've established because the rapid fire question did the same thing. So
you will not. We're not friends anymore. Like, okay. God dang it. This is a hard one. Okay, guys, I love everybody out there. So Bob is really putting my head on the chopping block. But I want to highlight these two areas because of one to two things, and I'll talk about it in a minute. So if you're in Austin, immediately go to the east side, okay? And I want you to visit a street, East 11th. I live on East 12th, but I want you to visit East 11th and East 12th too, because it's the African African Cultural District in Austin. So I'm gonna do a little blurb real quick. So you got Sam's Barbecue, Johnny's Antiques, you got a lot of other things, right? This is not a Black-owned facility, but the history, and they understand it ties into everything Black because it is the African Cultural District, right? So I just want to put that in there. So there's this two entities, restaurants. One is called Hillside Pharmacy. And then the other is Rosewood Restaurant. Okay, now I'm gonna real quick. So Hillside Pharmacy is Black owned. They own the building, but they lease it out to a powerful group of people that have created Hillside Pharmacy, and it's a wonderful restaurant with amazing dope ass food. And we go, Alex and I, we go, my partner, we go often. But they also support our organization, Raasin the Sun, both Rosewood and they also do. But the reason why I love Hillside Pharmacy is because it's named after an African American pharmacist that was there in the early 1900s that was a good friend. His name was pharmacist Young. He was Young. His last name was Young. And across the street is Rosewood with Dr. Delawash, and he delivered babies. Like, he was a midwife. And both buildings are still the same shell. And in Hillside Pharmacy, if you go in, it feels like a pharmacy, right? The shelves they saved a lot of the medicine bottles that Young had, and they still interact with the family, the generations from the family, and they also are very much in community. And so when you walk into this space, it feels nostalgic, but in a very, very powerful way. And then across the street is Rosewood, which is one of the oldest homes. There in African American cultural district, and it was Dr. Delawash who was in that home first, and he was the midwife person that people go to get their kid or to be the babies delivered, and we ended up doing the Rosewood mural there in honor of Young and Delawash in an augmented reality style, partnered with Ernesto Hernandez, which he did an augmented reality mural in which you can literally scan and hear my voice talking. Hey, this is Dr. Delawash, and this is da-da-da. This is the history of the area, da-da-da-da-da. And in the Rosewood restaurant, they kept the house, and inside is the restaurant and all of the different shells. I really encourage people to go. I think Rosewood has an amazing team as well, and they're very supportive in the community. And the food is amazing, the chef, and it's just, they're doing incredible things and have gotten through the pandemic, both restaurants. But I think they're one of my top on East 11th Street in an African American district there.
Shout out. I was looking them up while you're describing, and I was like, I see the shelves in the pharmacy spot. It's fire. It's fire. Yeah, that's definitely on the list of what is it? When I go back, it's like part 2. Yeah.
Yeah, it's part 2.
All right. Thank you.
You put me on the spot though on that.
But
one.
I mean, you kind of cheated though. You did 2, so points to you.
I did. I did 3 because I said Sam's Barbecue, but nobody. I don't know if anybody heard that.
Oh, I heard it. I mean, you said barbecue. I want to know. So I got some rapid fire questions for you. One, I was kind of sneaky about. I hope I'm accurate in it because there were some things out there. But here we go. The first one I think you're gonna like. What is the most common, and you want to answer these as quickly as possible. What is the most common mispronunciation of your name?
Raasin.
Okay.
You're wrong. You're smart, man.
Which words or phrases do you most overuse?
That's a hard one. Let's see. Maybe honey.
That's great. That's great. My partner, she was just like, she was like, every time I say something, it's like I know things are going to happen in a certain way or what have you. And so I was like, yeah, but don't listen to me though. She was like, that's going to be the name of your next podcast. I was like, can you stop? I was like, why are you trolling me? She's just like, also a spinoff podcast of that one. I was like, what is this, like roast meat right now? What are we doing?
Oh, I got a number of other ones, but yeah, that one for sure.
What is your favorite movie?
I
know.
You did it, didn't you?
I know. Sorry.
You can't do that.
Okay, what's the movie you most recently watched?
Nope.
Same. We'll talk off mic about that. We'll talk off mic about that. In terms of doing one thing well, what would that be for you?
I would like to be a powerful speaker.
Okay.
Like I want to speak well to things.
What you do. What you do. Yeah. There's a passion in there. There's a relatability there. And I think that is a thing. And it's not even the question is not even what do you want to do well? I think it's something that you do well. I think you answered that right well. This is a ridiculous one. And then the last one is the showstopper.
I gotta stop this mess.
Do you Google yourself?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I do not. I probably should, just figure out what's going on and if we can change it or some shit.
There's some entertaining things that I was like, oh, that was from like 2012. That was
yeah. Now I might do it now.
I don't Google myself.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Smart for that.
I can't do it. It's just like,
oh my God.
Now I read that you have Liberian heritage.
Yes. Well, we're all from Africa now.
But it's but it was a prominent thing when I typed it in. It was like in the Google search. The next thing that popped up was Liberian.
Yeah.
So with it, I always have to ask this. Because I have a few friends who, are like, I'm from there or what have you. Fufu or jollof rice?
Oh, jollof rice. That fufu was too starchy.
But see, you knew where I was going with it, though. That's the thing I appreciate. If you would have said, I don't know what either of those are, I'm like, all right, this interview's over. So yeah, I want to thank you for being on this podcast. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate you taking the time and to kick off this series in a strong and powerful way. And I want to invite and encourage you to tell the fine folks where to check you out, your work, and things of that sort. So the floor is yours.
Oh, I would just encourage people to check us out on Instagram. I think from Instagram at Raasin in the Sun, that's 2 ways, RAASIN in the sun. Is the best way to get to anything we're doing on the website, any project, anything, because I have somebody on that. They're always updating. And then I would say the second thing is a website to go on and donate, in which you can get that from Instagram. So, and if you wanted to check out and you want to scroll through all of the stuff, you can actually go to the website and just start picking apart. We haven't archived any projects yet, which we were going to be doing, taking them off the website. But right now, there's still projects there from like 2015, 2014. We've been doing the work for a long time. So, but that's what I would say. And then also I would say to just check out your local arts and cultural organization and figure out ways to support them. They may not be doing exactly what we're doing, but I guarantee you they're trying to make the mark and preserve culture in your neighborhoods. So
there you have it, folks. I want to thank the great Raasin McIntosh for coming on to the podcast, kicking off Truth in This Art Beyond. And I'm Rob Lee, saying if there's arts and culture in Austin. So talk soon. The Truth in This Art Beyond is produced with the generous support from Raasin in the Sun, Black Art Matters ATX, and Six Square. Raasin in the Sun is an Austin-based nonprofit organization whose work focuses on cultivating resilience through art and environmental initiatives. Find more out about their mission at raisininthesun.org. Black Art Matters ATX focuses on amplifying Black voices in Austin's cultural conversation by financially supporting new work from Black artists based in Austin. Learn more about their work at blackartmattersatx.org. And Six Square, Their work focuses on preserving and celebrating the historical legacy of the African American community that once thrived in Central East Austin. Learn more about their work at sixsquared.org. Thank you all for your generous support.